States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will now move on to our public comment portion of the evening. At every Board of Education meeting, we offer the opportunity for members of the public to address the board. So if anybody in the room would like to speak, please identify yourself and approach the podium. I don't see anybody in the room, but I know we have at least a couple written.
Yes.
So should we get to this?
2 written. I'll read one and Amy will read the other. My name is Alexandra Friedman. I am a resident of Lake Bluff and parent of an infant and a preschooler who will one day attend Lake Bluff schools. I'm deeply grateful for the work that the Lake Bluff School District Board of Education and school faculty do to keep our students safe. Like so many Americans, I have my own personal history pockmarked by gun violence. Throughout my career in education as a teacher and a school leader, I have participated in and designed many active shooter lockdown drills. I sat in a circle with my students after the Sandy Hook shooting in 2012, answering questions that 7- and 8-year-olds should never have to ask. 7 months later, a loved one was shot and killed at age 23. As a school leader, a 2nd grader brought a loaded handgun to one of my classrooms in his backpack with no intention other than pure curiosity and access to an unsecured weapon. Sadly, so many of my own experiences with gun violence are not unique. They are shared with parents, teachers, and students across the country, many of whom experience it to an ever higher degree. Schools are uniquely poised as powerful community and communication hubs to distribute resources that can deeply impact the safety of our faculty and students. I'm incredibly thankful that the board will be discussing gun safety tonight, and I am writing in full support for District 65 to adopt a secure storage resolution to distribute information to district families on safe firearm storage practices at home. At least 4.6 million US children live in a home with an unloaded, unlocked firearm, which has an undeniable impact on student and community safety. A secure storage resolution could help prevent school gun violence, reduce the risk of child gun suicide, and equip families with the resources to better protect themselves and their children. Thank you for considering taking action on this important matter for the well-being of our schools and our community.
And I have another one here from Kelsey Field, Adrian Murrell, and Taryn Fisher. Good evening. We are writing to you first as moms with children at LBES and second as leads of the new North Chicago, Lake Bluff, Lake Forest Moms Demand Action Group. I'd like to start with some facts. Firearms are the leading cause of death of children. 4.6 million children live in homes with guns that are unlocked and loaded. 350 kids die per year from unintentionally shooting themselves or others. 700 kids die per year by suicide with a gun. 75% of school shooters get their gun from the home of a parent or close relative. One of the most important things schools can do to prevent shootings is to make sure families with guns store them securely in the home. We are so excited to see a draft gun storage resolution in the agenda. We urge the board to make sure the resolution has concrete steps to work with other town agencies like the police department and village and ways to disseminate this important information, such as updating the handbook, presenting town halls or information sessions, and including in regularly sent information home. Thank you so much for your support on the matter.
Thank you to those of you that wrote in, and Lisa and Amy for reading. Any others that have been submitted? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item 5, addition of a discussion item. At each board meeting, we offer the opportunity for board members to suggest a discussion item for future agendas. Does anybody have anything to suggest? Future agendas? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Now on to reports, and we'll start with our first report from the PTO with Nicole Elliott. Thanks, Nicole.
Welcome back, everyone. Good luck tomorrow with the first day of school, and thank you for all your work. I know you've worked diligently over the summer to work on these safety measures and protections, which I think are so important in our district. We are off to a running start with the PTO. We've had initiatives for stocking the fridges for teachers. Today was the LBES Meet the Teacher and LBMS New Student Orientation and Locker Day. We have spirit wear sales up and going. And tomorrow at the middle school, welcome for all district children is the first annual snow cone social right after the early release in the LBMS parking lot. Additionally, on Friday, we have brought back a former tradition of the back to school swim party. This is also open to all district families. It's from 5 to 7 at the Lake Bluff Pool, and there'll be a DJ, swimming opportunities. Donati's Pizza will be there. The ticket price includes dinner. So we welcome all families, and hopefully there's a great turnout for that. Additionally, we have the Pumpkin Family Fest and Chase scheduled for October 28th and 29th. And it's important to note, we actually don't have school on the 28th. So we're hoping to start that a little bit earlier. The Family Fest is going to be a bit different this year, where it's going to be more focused on family, and we're going to have a DJ and some outdoor events, and hopefully bring back the Haunted Forest. That is not finalized yet, but that is the desire and the hope. So hopefully that will be back, as well as a lot of other festivities, and using both the LBMS, probably have food trucks as well. So the idea is, again, to make that more family focused and not just geared more towards the little ones. And then the Chase will follow on the 29th at 8 a.m. The sponsorship letters for that are officially going out in the mail tomorrow. So the different community businesses around will be seeing those. Additionally, we have implemented an expanded version of what we call a membership toolkit. It's our online directory, but it has a lot of additional features that will enable event sales and tickets. Basically any purchase of anything, tracking volunteers and putting out, it basically has a sign-up genius embedded in it. Our PTO updates will come from there. It will house our platform by mid-year as well for the website. And so by having it all in one place, we'll be able to be much more organized for future transitions. And it will also make better transparency for financials. It will house the budget versus actuals, all of our bylaws, et cetera. So that is in place, and we're just working on the development of that before we formally switch over to make that our official website. And we're working hard to fill remaining positions. We always need more volunteers. There has been a lot of work done over the summer. We've got a lot in place. I guess the major needs are just backfills. So people to step in as VPs for the LBMS chair, LBES chair, and my position, as well as a fan representative. I was just talking to Tracy about that, and she was mentioning the major perks that, you get to see a lot of great authors, great parent topics, things important to our community. That person just reports back to the PTO to encourage attendance, major themes, major knowledge that was obtained. It's a pretty easy position, but also very beneficial. People receive actual books for that. We need a recycling and compost chairperson at the middle school. So those who are environmentally focused, that would be a great position. And a communications chair for the district. That would be strictly sending out emails. We have somebody who was willing to update the website and somebody to do social. So that's just some highlights, but if you're interested in becoming and more actively participating, please either reach out to myself or Megan Hadler, who heads up the elementary school, or Allison Perry, who heads up the middle school. And then I wanted to, first of all, thank Christy Dunick, who has done so much great work over the summer for our first capital improvement update, which is I put LBMS mistakenly, but it's the LBES courtyard. My apologies for that, for the Fox Den, which was student named and is just a great name, installation. So there's a lot of work done, and I want to ask actually Christy to come up and kind of go over all the work that is ongoing right now, because it's actually in process.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to talk about this project. We kicked this off as the courtyard revitalization last April on Earth Day to the students and to parents, and talked about changing the area, or just revitalizing the area to be a more usable space, a space that the students could use. One of the items of feedback that we got from staff too and faculty was that it's loud out there and there's a lot of noise. And so that isn't being used a lot for classrooms because it can be disruptive inside the building. And so we thought, well, how can we position this to be a different type of outdoor space and have it be somewhere that is for silent brain breaks or a breath of fresh air, a classroom going out there for silent reading, or Vanessa Grumm's yoga class to do their yoga out there on Monday. So, and also a good way to show students that there are different ways to have an outside. You can have a level 1 volume outside area that's different than a playground or different than a field. And so with that in mind, we decided to put some energy behind re-landscaping and redoing the Fox Den. As Nicole mentioned, the Fox Den logo and the name were a student contest. And in addition to that logo, we have some runners up that we identified from each grade that will be used in signage throughout the Fox Den as well. So then during the spring, we met with a couple landscaping companies that were all parent recommendations, and got bids for the landscaping and ended up choosing Mariani to do the landscaping install. And when we were deciding that, the watering of the courtyard became an issue. It gets dry out there, and I've been watering planters that we did with parents over the summer. And it was determined that if we were going to put this kind of money into the courtyard, that a sprinkler system was needed. So we're going to do a sprinkler system install that needed some plumbing work. So as you can see on the install, Mariani has already sprayed the site. We've taken some before pictures just so we can see that. I was out there again today, and what they've sprayed is all ready to be pulled up, and what they didn't spray is ready to be transplanted. They were very careful about marking things that can be reused. It won't only be reused in the courtyard, but around the outside of the school as well. We were pushed back a little bit on this timeline. Last Saturday, they were not able to get in to start the work because of it didn't rain that much, but because of the forecast, they called that off. And then they were going to be there on Monday as well. But because they didn't start Saturday, I think that Monday didn't quite make sense. So they're starting this Saturday. They work closely with Advanced Sprinkler Systems, and so they will coordinate if that date needs to get moved, because they will clear everything and prep the area, and then the sprinkler system will be installed. And then they will install everything on Saturdays. So they're working around our schedule. It's going to take a lot of prep and going through the halls to get to the courtyard. And so they will not be there when students are there, and only on Saturdays. And we are hoping then that early October, that seems like a good date, even with a couple rain days in there. Early October, everything should be installed. And then sometime during October, we would have a student grand opening or Fox Den assembly. And then by parent-teacher conferences, we'd be able to have a hospitality area out there to welcome parents, and so they can see where PTO fundraising is going and how we're thoughtfully spending some of our funds. And also that's what we see that area for as well. Choir concerts in the spring, and being able to then have a reception out there, and a space for students, parents, and the whole community. And one other thing that we have not determined as far as our budget or dates, we are having Chris Davis build a small garden shed out there and also a counter space. So we'll have some area. That is either going to be late this fall or later October, but there's a chance that his youngest son is completing his Boy Scout, Eagle Scout project, and he might take part in doing some of that building. So that would be something in the spring, because he needs to still propose that and go through that plan. So the plan here, flip to the plan. Oh. There, but I can put it up here. The plan that Mariani came up with, as well as transplanting some of the plants that were around, adds quite a bit of sod, quite a bit of lawn in there. It's just easier to maintain. It looks more tailored. They're going to lawn in all of the circles. There will be an opportunity if we want to do different student, have students be able to plant out there. We could do that. It's not overly landscaped. And then the landscape architect was sweet, and she came up with not only plants that will do well out there, and we're adding even a couple trees, but ones that had fun names like Costa Guacamole and Peekaboo. And those are the kinds of names that we're going to put on the signage, where we can use some of the logos that the kids came up with. As far as the budget, Mariani came in with a quote of $48,825.65. They're sending in crews of 10 people for big chunks of time on lots of Saturdays, and that seems like a pretty good deal, and it's a lot of planting. Advanced Sprinkler was also very eager to get the business and is doing the sprinkler system for $7,800. It's, if I remember correctly, I believe 48 sprinkler heads and can all be programmed remotely and on a smartphone. Dino Ferretti with Ferretti Plumbing already made it so that water is accessible out there for the sprinkler system for $1,450. We're still waiting for the quote back from Davis Home Renovations. And then marketing and hospitality, we will, make some more signage, doing a hospitality area, and we estimate about $500 for that. So total just under $60,000 at $58,576.
And in addition to that, yeah, we're targeting a budget of around 60,000 for that. And, currently in the bank, we have about 250,000. We want to keep roughly 80,000 of reserves, which is about 2 years of operating expenses, which is what the executive board of the PTO voted on as a comfort level. So with that, with the great action that was done to implement this and get this in progress so that we can actually have it for the fall. And then we discussed the opportunity. Christy is so gracious to help with the first 3 cycles of pruning and cleanup so that we can learn what to do and make sure that that's then transferred over to the maintenance staff appropriately so that this is truly a long-term investment in beautification for the long term in the school, as well as increased utilization from both, the allowing that additional outdoor space and additional opportunities for curriculum development and use as well. So with that said, just needing to understand and did that over the summer, really what is necessary for the second capital update, which is, now I'm getting this wrong, but it's the LBMS sport court, not the courtyard. I need to proofread better. Anyway, that said, the sport court, we are going to work towards getting through the village approvals this fall so that we can be good to go in the spring. And so by the time that this current group of PTO exec members transfers out, it's installed is the goal. And so there's a lot. I didn't realize really how much, but the architectural review board, basically it's a 2-step process. You have to submit well in advance of the actual meeting that you're attending. They're lengthy applications with multiple support documents in terms of, surveys and landscape plans and just, thorough understanding from an engineering perspective. So there's those elements. And then there's also the Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals for recreational, institutional, and open space use that we need to go before. That could potentially, if all goes well, be submit and then go to the meeting, but likely it would need to be also coming back to that meeting. So the goal is to have these steps completed this fall so that we can have the winter to formalize everything for implementation once the weather gets better in the spring. That will also allow us the year to gain more funds to make sure we maintain that $80,000 within our budget. So I think it all from a timing perspective is going to work out very well. And all along the way, of course, we'll keep administration updated. We'll keep coming back to the board to make sure that you're updated and still aligned. And if any hiccups occur, we'll obviously be very clear on the communications with those. So from an operational perspective, the next steps is we do need that landscape plan as a part of that application. We hadn't addressed any landscaping to this point, so we are going to start with Mariani because they just have done the work with the courtyard. We will obtain additional quotes if we don't think that's aligned with what our anticipated budget is. We'll probably do so anyway. And then White and Company is the engineering firm that we've been using because that's the one used for the renovation of the middle school. So we're going to meet again with them and Sport Court Midwest to refresh the plans, understanding if there's different pricing changes because of ongoing supply chain and inflation. And also making it sure that they're clear of what the village needs from the application perspective, and they'll will need to partner with us. In addition to the actual vendors partnering, it will be necessary for a representative, so either Jay or Dr. Leali to attend these meetings. And Andy, they also recommended perhaps that you attend, so that it's clear that there has been ongoing communications in support of the project.
Of course.
So we can, these were the times based on the published dates that we'd like to target, but if there are conflicts with those, we can look at other scheduled dates. And there's even the possibility to schedule one-off meetings if necessary too. So this is the proposal, but we can talk after this and finalize those dates. Are there any questions regarding that? Yes.
I just had a question. You were talking about a soil sample last year.
The soil sample, so that's, I need to revisit that with actually Jay One-Off. We had gained input from some community members who are construction experts, and with their understanding, because the courtyard is a concrete slab, it's not a structure, it's not going to have top weight bearing, it's not going to be bearing any weight of vehicles. The expert opinion was that the 12 years since the middle school and everything have come down would be more than enough time for the soil to properly condense and compact. And so when the initial estimate came in for $5,000 to do the soil sample boring down 15 feet, it was felt that that was not a good use of funds because of the natural capability of soil compaction. And then it was found out that the excavation company that would remove the soil, if there's any needing to be removed, does not require an environmental sample. And so the environmental testing of the sampling of the soil is not a requirement also by the village, and it is not by the company that we have initially been talking to do the work.
Cool.
So right now that's on hold.
I was
But-
just curious where the location of it was going to be done. Sorry.
Oh, yes. So if it still does need to be done, the desire is still to do the east. And even probably more so now because of the safety elements, keeping that away out of the parking lot. And the fact that, that was where the overwhelming support was, with the exception of a few. So hopefully, so yes, a final decision's not been made on the soil sample, but that is the update, and we will make that determination in these next few weeks. Any other questions? Okay, so just the other things that have occurred since the end of the last time we gave an update from a PTO perspective, the bylaws were reviewed and approved in early June. We will be putting them out on the website within the next week. They haven't been yet. The decision to implement an annual report was made at the meeting at the end of May. And what that would be is just making more transparency to the initiatives of the PTO as well as the financials. So the goal is to have that in the place at the end of the school year. And, like many nonprofits have an annual report, it would just be a summary of activities and financials. I've mentioned membership toolkit and the enhancements that will bring to the organization. And then we do have Josh Fox, who has graciously stepped up as our fundraising chair, who will help kind of organize all the efforts that go on. So if, when we have the Pumpkin Family Fest and the Chase and the sponsorships for that, we're going to now do annual sponsorships, so we don't do multiple asks. We have our PTO Bluffer Nights. We potentially could do another social event in the spring if needed and desired. So he'll help us coordinate all that, and he has a lot of great ideas and brings a lot of energy to the organization as well. I think those are the highlights. Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Nicole and Christy, for the amazing work you're doing and the work you've done this summer. I'm really excited by two great improvements at both of our buildings. So that's really cool. It could be used as classroom space and community space. Thanks for all your work on that.
Sure. Thank you.
Right. We'll now move on to our principal report. Start with Kelly Bay.
All right. Hi, everybody. Great to be back up here in the start of a new school year. A short update from LBES. So a couple of notes here. I don't want to forget to mention some of the key points. I would start by saying our classrooms and hallways have never looked so good. I'm just beyond impressed with the way teachers get their classrooms so ready to be a welcoming environment for students. And each room is unique and special. And I think based on responses today during Meet the Teacher, our students and families are excited to fill them and to start school tomorrow. We have new staff throughout LBES. There's an abundance of talent that we were able to hire. And I'm just thrilled about these new faces and new hearts to welcome students and to create a nurturing, supportive environment while challenging them in lots of excellent ways. Just with hiring out there, shameless plug, we are still looking and hiring teaching assistants and substitutes. So if you know anyone or have some time and want to be in our building, we would love to have you working to fill those positions quickly. Our maintenance team and front office staff and secretaries, administrative assistants throughout the district have been working nonstop. And I know that we mention our maintenance staff year in and year out. I don't know that our secretaries and administrative assistants are mentioned often enough. There were some changes and adjustments, and they continue to answer the phone with a smile and provide support and help, not only for myself, but for parents. And our maintenance team has a very long list of to-dos, but the building is ready for kids, and it's a celebration each and every time. I'm excited about the things that PTO shared this evening regarding our Foxton and courtyard revitalization, and want to thank Christy Dunnick and Adrienne Murrell again for their hard work, dedication, and just endless time within our building and courtyard to get things ready to go. Last little piece, we added some signage to the front of our building to welcome families and students back. So there's a welcome LBES sign in the front, and there are grade level number signs in the lawn. So those will be there through tomorrow for families to take pictures. Lots of our staff got photos, so check out social media pages. I'm going to try to post a few more tonight so that you can see their happy faces. Our pre-K and kindergarten signage will be out the 30th and 31st next week. So we don't want to forget about our newest students coming in to have their first day of school moment with the signage. Can't wait to see everybody tomorrow, and can't wait to welcome our kindergartners on the 30th and our pre-K students on the 31st. Thanks, everybody, for all your support.
Thank you, Kelly. And Mr. Blackmer.
All right, good evening. I first wanted to start with a thank you to our ongoing support and amazing, actually, support of the PTO and what they've been able to do. That was one of the most extensive board reports I've seen from the PTO in my time. It's amazing. So thank you very much for all of that. We are so excited for the start of school tomorrow. We've had 2 outstanding in-service days with our staff. Prior to that, 2 outstanding days with our new staff last week, Thursday and Friday. The building looks great, as Kelly had indicated. The maintenance staff has done an amazing job. You may recall being in the buildings, the dots and stickers and stripes. I was amazed by how great the building looks without those. And I know, having taken an active role in putting those stripes down, taking them off was not an easy task, and they left a tremendous sticky mess behind. So somehow the custodial staff was able to get that up, and it just looks great. We're very excited. Today we had our new family orientation. That was at 1 o'clock this afternoon. That was a great experience, just being able to welcome those families, give them a tour of the building, answer questions that they had. We have a group of students known as our Bluffer ambassadors, who are also there to help welcome our families, also to give tours, to take part in the presentation. And I really appreciate all of their hard work. And Carly Quick, our social worker, who facilitates that with them, did a great job as well. Following new family orientation, we had 6th grade and new student locker day. Also one of my favorite days of the year. This year, I continued with my locker opening lesson and unsolicited advice for accoutrements inside of your locker, what to do and what not to do to keep your locker from functioning properly. But a lot of enthusiastic families and kids there today, and it really made the building feel alive. So we're excited about that. I also wanted to mention there's some signage in front of the middle school as well. In addition to that, a group of students this afternoon, the Unity Club, gathered to chalk the front entryway. If you haven't had an opportunity, I encourage you to swing by. They put a lot of welcome and kind messages. And probably one of the coolest parts about what they did this afternoon is that students inquired about the number of languages spoken at homes by students who attend Lake Bluff Middle School. For your information, that's 18 different languages. And when you take a look at the chalk drawings that have been done outside, you'll see each and every one of those languages is represented in the messaging that our students put down on the bulletin board or put down on the concrete. I went ahead and posted some video on our Instagram feed. And we'll get some more pictures and videos out tomorrow morning as students arrive. So looking forward to that. And just thank you very much for your support. We're very excited to start the 2022-23 school year.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Right, and Jay, I think you're up next.
Nothing today.
No, I have no report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jay. So we'll turn over to Tracy.
All right, good to be here on the eve of the first day of school. Very excited to share some updates with you. The first being about how we continue to build a really robust social emotional learning curriculum for our students. So throughout the last 2 years, we've really been focused on our social emotional learning initiatives and building and growing our Tier 1 curriculum. Last year, we hired 2 school psychologists, one in each building, to really focus their time and energy on making sure that we have a fully developed curriculum, and that work continues throughout this year. An exciting new opportunity from our cooperative, True North District, has presented itself, and we are always happy to access all of the supports that we can through our cooperative. So this new opportunity is called Systemic Implementation of SEL. And what they do, they provide us coaches who walk us through our current curriculum and what we're providing to students, help us build a more robust curriculum. But they also take our school psychologists and our administrative team through some activities to help us define our goals around social emotional learning and how to build our systems for adults as well. So we know that adult learning and professional development around social emotional learning is just as important as working with our students, not only so they can be feel emotionally well when they're entering the classroom, but so they have a deep understanding in order to share that with their students. Throughout this school year, those coaches will start by working with our administrative team, then the 2 school psychologists in each building. But the end goal is to actually bring a full team of general education specialists, special education teachers together as a committee and form this group that will carry all of this work forward so that after this year, it doesn't end. We just continue year after year to build that a more robust curriculum for our teachers and our students. And then my only other update is about our our policy review of the anaphylaxis and food allergy policy. Just a really brief review of that. Just letting you all know that really this policy requires districts to work to reduce the risks of anaphylaxis and food allergies in our schools. This policy addresses staff training as well as the development of healthcare plans for students. These are things that we've always done in the past. We provide training annually for teachers and anyone working directly with students. And we do have many students who have healthcare plans and work with our nurses to develop those plans. In addition to that, we do have the opportunity to have undesignated EpiPens and inhalers kept in our nurse's office, so that will be something that we would talk through to determine if we would like to keep those in our nurse's office. Just one note about keeping the undesignated EpiPens and inhalers in the nurse's office. Those really are designed to be for students who maybe have never been diagnosed with a food allergy or don't know that they yet have had an allergic reaction to something. We want to make sure that those who really already know that are sending in their own designated EpiPens and inhalers and continue to do so, so that those undesignated items are really for emergencies. Any questions?
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll turn it over. I think this might be the first ever report from the Director of Educational Technology and Innovation, Margaret Ryan. So welcome up here, Margaret.
No pressure, Margaret.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and update you a little bit on what the past 7 weeks have looked like. So it's been very exciting. Our summer work was comprehensive. We had a lot of great work. As I said, kudos to Jackie and Steve for a lot of our device preparation to be ready for tomorrow. So devices are in the classrooms and ready to go, and we're very excited about that. We had an opportunity last week to even do walkthroughs through the classrooms to make sure that things like projectors and remotes and cables and wires and sound were all working efficiently. So we were really excited to do that as a team. We've also been working through things like state reporting and PowerSchool and all of those other registration and things like that that have also been ongoing. And so again, like Kelly, I give a kudos to our administrative assistants as well. They've been most helpful with all of those things. We're working a lot on how to establish processes and systems so that our procedures can become more efficient when we've all been here and we know what we're doing for next year. So it's going to be very exciting, hopefully more efficient. One of the things that's been really significant this summer is our relationship with Net 56. And we established that relationship at the beginning of July. And Jay and I have had meetings with them bi-weekly with the leadership team, and that's been extremely supportive. They have also helped a lot with some issues that have come up along the way with our infrastructure, our servers, and our network. And they've been very eager and ready to help. Anytime I email them, they're extremely responsive. Anytime anything has had an issue, they usually are the first ones to tell us. So that's actually really nice to have that level of monitoring. So that's been very exciting. We just had a meeting today, our first of bi-weekly meetings about cyber awareness. So making sure that we are doing things to keep our students safe and our data safe. So those have also been really significant meetings. They also provided ongoing support, hardware and software. They've been fielding some calls from me for different support reasons, PowerSchool and whatnot. And so that, again, has just proved to be a really positive relationship that we're building. And they have been able to find a lot of things and make a lot of recommendations about improvements and how we can adjust some of the things that we've been doing, which has been great. The other element of our new tech department is, of course, professional learning. And so we've had an opportunity. Jackie Tibidor has been the pioneer. She's been fantastic, training for new teachers last week and training today for some of our teacher assistants. So that has been really wonderful. We introduced ourselves to the entire new staff, but we are certainly eager to establish a professional learning plan and ideas for them as we move forward. And once things kind of settle down a little bit, to get them some training. Any questions? Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Margaret? Okay, thanks for that.
Oh, thanks.
Pretty easy, right? All right. Now on to the president's report. I'll keep this very brief. Just a brief welcome to the 2022-2023 school year. Officially, it was amazing to be back in the building today. So great to see Kelly at the front door greeting the students, and it just felt normal for the first time in a couple of years. So it was really, really great to be in there. And I would agree, the classrooms looked amazing. The teachers were so happy. I mean, just the number of kids, the number of teachers just came out into the hallway to greet students. 4 students could even get in the door, even 2 hours into the meet the teacher was really incredible. So lots of excitement and energy on both sides. So thanks to everybody who made that happen. And welcome to the new families as well. First-time families, kindergarten families, new people to Lake Bluff. Please, if there's anything I can do or the board can do, we'd love to meet you. So welcome to the district. Final thing, just a reminder to the board, our self-evaluation workshop is on Monday, September 12th at 1 p.m. So don't forget to do your governance review survey before 8/29, before August 29th. And if you need that link, you can search for an email. You probably would have gotten that earlier this month. So looking forward to that. And that's it for me. Dr. Leali, you're up next.
Great. I may be a little bit more long-winded than you. But I also feel the same way. We're so relieved and excited about the school year. I got a little bit emotional the last week or so, just because it's felt really great to see everyone and to see everyone back. And a lot of gratitude was stolen in the last few reports, but I'm still just going to say it. So as you know, we've been working a lot on safety and security this summer. I do want to thank the police department for their partnership. They've been in our buildings multiple times. We've had multiple meetings. We've been talking with the park district about, revitalizing our plans for evacuation and reunification. We have a report that's going to be coming in September with some recommendations for the future, but I just can't emphasize enough Chief Smazinski and Deputy Chief Gerke and the work that they've been doing with us, just to really, anytime we've had a question, they've been proactively looking at things for us, and just the communication has been tremendous. So we can all feel like we're in really good hands there. Also, we are partnering with District 67 and 115 on a parent safety series. More information will be coming on that, but there'll be 4 opportunities this year for parents in all 3 districts to come and learn about safety related issues that are pertinent and relevant to all 3 districts. So again, very grateful for their partnership. We have had new teacher training in, new teacher assistant training. We've had our guest teachers in. We've had new family orientation these last couple of weeks. All have been amazing opportunities. I will just repeat in case somebody's tuning in now, we still need some teacher assistants. And we do have members of the community that have joined us. We're really excited to have them with us. We've had some retired teachers join us who just are not ready to give up on classroom in the school, which is amazing. And we just thank everyone for helping us out there. We do, we are definitely challenged, just like every other school district right now, in being fully staffed. And so we have a few class sizes that are a bit bigger than we'd like to see. We're monitoring whether or not we'll need extra support in there, but quite frankly, we don't have all the teacher assistants that we need yet. So we continue to interview and try to find those great people, but the people we have hired all summer have been amazing. So we've been very, very lucky to find them. I would also thank Jay and the facilities crew. There have been staffing issues this summer. As we know, COVID hasn't completely disappeared. We've had some folks in and out of the buildings. We've had updates to our facilities. They've coordinated big projects. We didn't even talk about the LBES playground renovation, which looks amazing. And the removal of the COVID signage. I mean, Gugon has like been an investment for us, and it just, the buildings look outstanding. So thank you to Steve and Jay and the entire custodial and maintenance crew for all that work. And speaking of Jay's department, he's a little, humble right now, but thank you to him and Tammy Robart specifically for all the work they've done on transportation and making sure that everyone is able to get to school. We, again, are trying to move to corner and corner-like stops so that we can be as efficient as possible in picking up students. We do ask everyone for their patience. The first couple of days with bus transportation is always a little bit hectic. We know everyone's nervous. We will do our best to make sure that everyone has a smooth ride to and from school, and just let us know if there are any issues. COVID. So it hasn't completely disappeared, but really we're scaling back on our mitigation efforts and things. We do ask that parents let us know if their child or their student has tested positive, and we'll walk you through those things. Still recommended a 5-day isolation period from this symptom onset. And we recognize that sometimes you don't even test positive until you maybe even pass those 5 days, but we'd still ask that you just let us know. And as far as everything else, we just recommend that we continue to try and care for each other, and recognize that some folks in our community are a little bit more compromised. And so if you are feeling sick, it's okay to stay home. It's okay to wear a mask if you want to wear a mask. If you don't want to, that's fine as well. We're trying to get back to business as usual, but clearly we're still going to have issues with that. So we will work with you and parents on a case-by-case basis. I have a couple more things. So thank you to Lauren Hirsch and Michelle Grady for helping us organize some cheer bags that we dropped off to Highland Park District 112. Our LBTC president, Michelle Grady, reached out to me right after July 4th, as she had been in contact with the teachers union over there. And just, hearing kind of how difficult things were in the middle of the summer, she proposed that we try to find a way to kind of lighten the mood a little bit and show our support. And we gave a call over to Lauren, who just organized it all up and got the Winter Club on board, and just Amy was helping with getting all the supplies in, Amy Kotnick, and we had volunteers from all three districts, 65, 67, and 115. And what we thought would take 3 hours took 45 minutes. So, and that was all due to Lauren's amazing organization. And we have had folks tweeting out and sending thank yous, and I think it just meant a lot. And I think we should be doing that more, just supporting not only districts that are in crisis, but anytime we can sort of cheer people up and send support across the school districts, I think it's a great idea. So I also want to highlight our Park District partnership. So along with the courtyard renovation, we have stored some materials in the courtyard, which is not maybe the best place and won't look that great if we keep things there. So we have been meeting with the Park District to ask for their help. As you know, we're landlocked to a great extent and don't really have the ability to create new storage solutions for ourselves. We're a little bit limited, but the Park District is looking into opportunities where we might be able to share some space and find spaces for our bigger items like our tractor, the risers that we've been keeping out there just to free up space. And we very much appreciate them supporting us with that. We've also been talking about expanding our articulation between our pre-K teams in District 65 and at the Park District, expanding ARC and the before and after school care opportunities so that we can make sure that we have that available for parents if it's needed. As we've been talking about, safety and security is something that we continue to talk about. And then finally, I know the board has asked for an update on the wetlands versus the golf course situation in town. It looks like they still have some discussions happening until about the beginning of December. So we're looking at a January to February report from John Beeler and their commissioner. So what I can tell you is that regardless of how that decision comes out, the Park District is ready and willing and stands with us and supporting us with whatever needs we have, no matter how that decision goes out. So we're just truly, truly grateful for them. And then finally, we have a celebration. 2023 marks the 100th anniversary of the first Board of Education in Lake Bluff District 65. And so we are ready to celebrate. We would love for some board representatives to join a committee to perhaps work with the Lake Bluff Historical Society to create some kind of celebratory and informational event where the community might be able to come together and celebrate District 65. So if anyone is interested in celebrating that, doesn't mean we're 100 years old like us. It just means, you know, the board. So I think it might be fun. And I think we could create something really special for the community to take part in and learn a little bit more about our
That's really
district.
cool.
So if you're interested in that, please let me know.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Leali? Great. All right, we're going to move on to our discussion presentation portion of the evening. We have two items on the agenda in this section tonight. The first one is related to something coming up in the Press Pack 109. Our policy subcommittee will be meeting later this month to review the full press packet, but there's one policy that needs to be approved this month. Tracy referenced it earlier, so I'll turn it over to you again.
Yeah, there's really not much to say about this particular policy, other than that this is something, much of what's outlined in the draft update to this policy we've been doing for some time. There's just a deadline on approving this one. I would recommend no changes to the draft policy. This is one that we just need to adopt as updated, and it really is just about wording and ensuring that we're doing the things that Tracy talked about already doing. So we have been in touch with Dr. Bauer from Lake Forest Pediatrics, who's going to help us with the undesignated EpiPens and inhalers, and just know that we take these things very seriously and always, you know, ensure that we have trained everyone and everyone's as prepared as they could possibly be for any sort of allergic reaction. So happy to answer any questions.
Just to clarify, we are in compliance with the policy already,
already.
right? And
Yep.
we would just be adopting it.
Yeah,
as
just
is and
adopting the
continue
updated
to-
language.
And this is something we've done in previous years.
Yeah, the undesignated EpiPens are kind of a new addition for us. I mean, we've said that we've had them before, but it's been difficult to get. So we have a different, I think a different relationship with Dr. Bauer. He's going to be able to help us a little bit more with it. Sometimes they can be difficult and expensive to get.
That was my question. I know that they go expired pretty soon and they're expensive. And then how do they do it where you don't have a prescription?
So that's just, it is just Dr. Bauer prescribing for us an undesignated thing that we would have in the office. And that's just something that we'd like to have for anybody. Like Tracy said, though, we don't want parents to rely on the fact that we have just an extra laying around because it really, for anybody that has a diagnosed or an identified allergy, your own doctor would be able to prescribe you the correct medication that we would like to have in the office and updated and as current as possible. This is really just for those instances when a student or a staff member finds out on campus that they are allergic to something.
So we will be voting on that in our action items, but any other questions or discussion? Okay, great. So move on to the second item, which is discussion on gun safety, and provide a little bit of context here. One thing I love about our board is our ability to respectfully dialogue about any issue. And as we've been approached by various community groups individually and collectively, when we heard 2 comments tonight, asking us to take some action. I think a lot of us, in talking, have just asking ourselves, what can we do ourselves? What can we do as a board? There are some school boards that have passed resolutions and done some other things in our general area. Moms Demand Action, as you heard in the public comment, has sent us a draft resolution on secure storage, which we've all read. It's in our packet. So I wanted to have this conversation to really really answer 3 things. Number 1, is this something we feel like we should take some action on in the realm of student safety? 2, if so, what should that action be? Is it a resolution? Is it something else? Is it that and more? And 3, if it is a resolution, looking at the drafts that we've had and some of the other things, discussions that you may have had on your own, what should that look like and what do we really want out of it? So I'm going to turn that over for discussion. Feel free to share whatever thoughts you have.
I can start. It's a very overwhelming topic to start, is what I will say. Generally, I am in favor, this is a very broad statement, but generally I am in favor of school governing school, family governing home. I don't think that that has been working in this scenario. And so I do think that there is a door open for us to do something, some sort of information home, some sort of resolution, something like that. Because of all of these statistics and things that we're learning that are in these resolutions, right, of how much access there is to unsecured guns and weapons. We know that, mental health and all of that is really a large topic right now and needing to be addressed as well. And our role as a school is to keep our kids safe within the school. But we can't do that without the help of parents at home. And so I do think the door is open for there to be some sort of, there needs to be communication and there needs to be help from both sides. So I do think it's appropriate for us to do something.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm generally a fan of home, it's home, school, school. But in this situation, and I'm not helpful because I don't have a lot of suggestions, but I do agree that we need to brainstorm and come up with, at a minimum, information where we can be supplying at least facts and details and just shining some light on what is happening more specifically, I guess, based on what can people be doing at home to keep the kids safer at school. Because we read a lot of articles and we see a lot of stuff on the news. We don't know really all the details behind it on average, some of the statistics. So, and I've read so much about it in the last week, and everybody's all over the board. Everybody has so many different ideas about it. But I guess the bottom line is, I think that although most of the time I would say, it's not necessarily our lane for dictating anything at home, I think that we can still help in some way
Thanks,
and
Amy.
need to. I think it's our responsibility.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. I just wouldn't want to make a resolution and then not follow through with it. So I would love to hear how we can utilize it without putting it on somebody else to have extra work and education, all that stuff. And more than just sending home a pamphlet or just some to-dos. But I agree. I think we need to do something.
Agreed. I think not, I'm in support of doing a resolution, but like Carrie said, I would want to also act on it, not just put it out there, say it's signed, done, like actually have some.
Like do something that actually does something.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
Instead of ask somebody to do it for us. As the board, we're saying we resolve to do something, so. Be a group effort.
Mark, I don't want to forget your, not to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you want to give you the chance to share if you'd like.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I generally agree with everything that everybody has said. I'm always a little skeptical is not quite the right word, but something like that when it comes to resolutions, because they don't have a lot of teeth. It's not a legally binding document to my knowledge. I mean, it represents something. It's a statement of belief, and we are going to try to live by those standards. So I think somebody said something about doing something that has more teeth. I like that idea a lot. One of the things that came to what I thought about was, I wonder if this is something to bring to our legislative committee with Lake Forest. Because if you look at the items in both of the example resolutions that were provided in the board packet, there needs to be lobbying behind those to get legislators to act. And we need to not just do this ourselves, we need to do this with other districts, because when legislators see many districts pushing on a particular topic, they're more likely to act than if just one district pushes on a topic. And that kind of makes me wonder about, like, there's the two resolution examples. One, the Moms Demand Action example, that was very, very focused on gun storage. And if you're trying to affect change, perhaps it is wise to narrow your focus to one really specific thing. I don't know. But then the resolution example from District 109 Deerfield is very broad. It hits on many different things, all of which I personally agree with. But I wonder how many districts are behind that broad a resolution or a legislative support, a push to support legislative change. So I know I'm kind of wandering all over the place here, but I think that it might be something to bring to our legislative committee with a narrow focus. If we go too broad, I don't think anything gets done. I'm not necessarily recommending the Moms Demand Action gun storage as being the focus. I think that's for our committee to decide, along with Lake Forest, and then to pull in as many other districts as we can. And then I also wondered about, and for whatever reason, it's slipping my mind. What's the name of that organization we just hired to act on our behalf in Springfield, to give us reporting and lobby for us?
EdRed.
I wonder if there's a role for them here, if there's enough schools in EdRed with a similar position, whether it's supplying us with information or lobbying on our behalf. So I'm generally supportive of moving forward on something. I would like to do something sort of specific. I would think it makes sense to be in our legislative committee and to not let this opportunity pass. That's it.
Have we ever, as a board, Mark, in your past years, done anything like this where we've been invested in lobbying for something that's like a outside of school, but still affects school in a certain
No.
way?
Not to my knowledge.
So Mark, I appreciate your comments and everybody's comments. I will say, just to touch on a couple of points, you had the legislative committee. We had John Noble come here a few weeks ago. He and I were in a community meeting together about gun safety. Some of us were there. And the legislative committee is already has this on the radar and is working on it too. So I think there's some good work there being done already. But we need to get an update on that. What I'm hearing is that, and please, if anybody else wants to add, but what I'm hearing is that there's, pretty much consensus on moving forward, doing something. We like the idea of doing a resolution. We've had a chance to review two. I'll just quickly share my thoughts on that. I think you led us off perfectly, Anne, with a perfect explanation of why this is different. I think my basic viewpoint is it's yes and. I think we should pass some resolution so that we publicly state what we believe and what's important to us. And I think we could do it in a way that it both is comprehensive and targeted. And I think that's really the goal. These two resolutions were vastly different. I think there's a way that we could take the elements we like of each one and do something different that maybe does have some teeth. So it actually lays out specifics that we can actually do here specifically for our schools, but also speaks to what others who have responsibility in other areas should be doing as well. So related to that specifically, if we're in favor of doing a resolution and some other things, be it legislative, be it talking to Ed Red, be it all these other things, what would you feel like the resolution maybe should entail? Or are there pieces of these that the two that we've reviewed, are there pieces that you thought, Mark referenced a couple, but other pieces that you thought were good, maybe not so good? I just want to throw that out.
Do we know how many school districts the Moms Demanding Action Group has presented their draft to?
I don't know. We could get that information though. Yeah.
I like, Mark, how you were saying more specific gets things done sometimes. I do agree with that. And I do agree with gun storage being a really important piece of this, right? Safe gun storage being an important piece of it. Also one that directly affects schools. So that makes sense. And something that we could possibly help affect. So that makes sense to me to include something like that. I also liked in the Deerfield one, calling on legislators and, lawmakers to actually do something. Right, they are the people that have the power to change these laws. So maybe that, maybe we've already covered that with our legislative group and Ed Red and whatnot. But those are the two pieces that appeal to me, for lack of a better word right now.
So regardless of what we do, I think, Mark, you said this, and Anna, it sounds like you just said this too, is trying to pull in other districts. So like Mark, you said, there's legislators much more willing to listen to many districts doing something as opposed to one or two districts doing something.
And it's not saying I don't like a lot of the points, for example, that are in that Deerfield 109 resolution example. It's just it's very broad and a bit of it's perhaps too broad to actually affect change.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Any proposed directions for what we as a board do next, what we direct our administration to do next?
I agree with a lot of things that have been said, and a lot of what's in the resolutions. With regard to the secure storage, I know people don't read things that are sent home in emails. People don't come to meetings, but I don't know. I don't know how effective it is, but I think it would be nice. The schools have been doing a lot over the last 20 years, and this needs to be a community effort. And I would like to see, if possible, I don't want to create unnecessary work for anyone, but to partner with the village, partner with the county. I don't know who to promote gun safety if we can. The events that we're doing with District 67 and 115 are presenting a lot of things. I think it would be nice to have this be one of the topics addressed too, not just what happens after, what happens if something bad happens, but how we can come together as a community to stop this, because something needs to be done. And I told you this, Andy, but I felt helpless. I feel we're elected officials. I know we don't have a lot of power, but we should be able to keep our kids safe in school.
Absolutely.
Tim, you come up with a really good point, because when we were growing up, it was fire safety, and you had like plans in your house, how to get out of the house. Like a fireman came in and talked to us about that. And what do you do if you're in a building or a movie theater or an airplane, like where are your exits? And maybe, unfortunately, our conversations need to change. And it's not a fun conversation to have with your kids, but it's reality. And gun safety and what happens, we talk about it at school. Maybe we need to have more of a community plan. What do you do when you're out and about and in somebody else's home and those kinds of things?
I do want to emphasize that in that parent safety series, one of the events is going to be on active threats, not specific to schools.
Cool.
So generally speaking, in the community, support for adults and kids with what to do if there is a threat in the area.
And I also like your point, Tim, about partnering up with the village and, Lake County, because we are a small but mighty district. But I think if we kind of go out a little bit, that will be more powerful for sure.
And there seems to be some interest in doing that from what I've gathered. Yeah. Okay. So I know, Tim, you mentioned some of the things that were listed. Well, many of us mentioned some things that were listed specifically in the Moms Demand Action resolution. I don't want to put you on the spot, Dr. Lealy, but I do know that the district has already taken a number of steps this summer and even prior to that, including many of the things that are in that resolution. So I don't know if it's helpful if you want to share just from an administrative perspective, some of the things the district's already doing and maybe how that might impact what we decide to do next.
Sure. So this is obviously a very big topic of conversation for Lake County superintendents, but also superintendents across the state and the country. We have been talking with legal counsel about what can we put into our student handbooks, what are other student, districts putting into their handbooks, what kind of language can we put out there for that. In terms of community or joint communication with the police department, we've already started working on that as well. I know the Lake Bluff Police Department has been in touch with other departments about securing free resources for safe gun storage to be given out to families in Lake Bluff if they so choose to have those. And that would be something we would communicate, as well as kind of what's written in here about obligations that adults have and what we would ask that families and community members would do with regard to safe firearm storage. And, I can tell you that this is something that's really important to the village. It's important to the village. It's important to the Park District. I am so grateful for the support of all the directors and the local entities. And we've been talking about, as you know, joint strategic planning. And when we talk about kind of coming up with these overarching community values and behaviors, this is one of them, that we really want to create a safe community for our students and for our families to be living in. It's kind and caring, where we, show care and kindness and responsibility for each other. So I would say a lot of these conversations have already started. I understand the idea about, what could be done with a resolution. I do think it's important. It can show a level of support from the school district, school board, that this is something that you really want us to be working on, although it is a #1 safety issue for children and minors under the age of 19, not necessarily school shootings, but just gun-related violence. And so, as you know, school districts, if there's any kind of health threat, that's something we take really seriously. That is our first and most important obligation, is to make sure our students are safe with us. So I want to assure you we're working on it. I also think it's important that the Legislative Action Committee does some work on this. And, as an administrative team, we're fully in support of moving forward. And like I said, in September, we'll have some recommendations for what more we feel like we can do. We've been talking, as you know, about potentially a school resource officer. I mean, there's lots of conversations that have been going on. So just know that we're working on it and we will be ready to do whatever the board would like us to do in terms of additional advocacy.
Well, thank you for that. So in terms of just synthesizing the conversation, and please correct me if I'm misstating something, but I'm hearing 4 main things that we're suggesting are important to us as a board in keeping our kids safe, in supporting these efforts, et cetera. 1, prevention education throughout the community, events with parents like the safety series you mentioned, advocacy home to students and families. Gary, you referenced, like with fire safety, kind of replicating models that previously worked in that regard, just whole community-based education, awareness, et cetera. 2 is perhaps passing some sort of resolution that would direct the superintendent and the administration to enact things that are, continue things that are already being done and enact new things that are important, that we feel are important, but also to state that we're behind these efforts and we realize that some change is necessary. 3, some legislative advocacy through the legislative subcommittee that some work is already being done in collaboration with the tri-districts and also through EdRed and their expert lobbying and advocacy. And then 4, kind of building capacity, with other municipalities, other school districts, et cetera, and having kind of that strength in numbers. Is that trying to put things into like action steps? Does that sound what we've talked about? Am I missing anything? Did I misstate something?
Are you writing this? Or are we going through?
The
Well,
resolution, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. Because I know you're trying to gather our thoughts and I'm just curious, like,
no, what I'm trying to do is just to synthesize what we do next. I
Yeah.
thought the secretary wrote the resolution.
oh. Whereas.
Yeah.
All by herself with no input from anyone.
Yes. No, what I'm trying to do right now in this discussion is to synthesize, whatever the main steps we feel like we should take are. And what I'm hearing is some sort of effort around educating around preventing gun violence, be it through storage, be it through safe use for adults, be it, legislative stuff for background, all the stuff we talked about, right? 2, a resolution that kind of states what it is we're hoping to do. So, this resolution could include these 4 things we're talking about, or it could include elements of the 109 one, elements of the Moms Demand Action one, and other things that we feel like are important. 3, the legislative advocacy and 4, collaboration and strength. So what I'm trying to do now is just, if these are the 4 buckets, then we can create some action on each one of these. So then we could have some admins and some board members and some community members that work on the resolution. Then we could have some people that work on the, education, and we can have some people that work on the legislative piece, and we could have some people that work on, building capacity through, collaboration with others. So what I'm hoping to get out of today, like what those 4 things or more are.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I think your 4 topics that you have lined, like, yes, that's what I'm hearing too. I agree with you that I think those are what it sounds like we are saying are important. So as far as next steps go, yes, I like your idea of either forming committees, or if we all feel like we want to be a part of this committee, maybe setting aside a special meeting time to brainstorm about this and talk about this. I think we all are in agreement that we're not going to spontaneously draft a resolution right
Yeah,
now.
no, I got
So,
nervous.
Thought you had a draft done
I get
already.
so nervous about things on paper.
No, yeah.
I do.
But yes, I think further discussion, whether we want to divide it up or do a committee of the whole thing,
Mhm.
just targeted on this discussion. Is
Yeah, I agree. We should meet as a whole, in my opinion. And I'm personally like doing the next Moms Demand Action Zoom.
Mhm.
So I'm happy to gather information and report back as well, because
great.
partnering with somebody who clearly knows what they're doing is helpful.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I was gonna say too. If we could be guided on what would be most beneficial, like rather than recreating the wheel and
Yeah.
getting that guidance would be.
Well, we do have community members who have started a local Moms Demand Action section as well, and who are also involved in the village. So that all kind of ties nicely together if we want to involve them in the discussions or have them come talk here or whatever. Could be helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so next step I'm hearing, number one, is scheduling a special meeting. We have two options for that. One, we could use the committee of the whole meeting in September, or if we felt we wanted to do that earlier, we could schedule a special meeting between now and then. Just talk specifically about this, right? That's one. And then at that meeting to be really targeted, clear agenda about these are the outcomes. These are the 4 things we identified as where the board wants to take some initiative and some action and some leadership, and then decide how we approach each of those individually. Does that sound reasonable? Does that sound right?
Yes.
So Dr. Lealy, your thoughts on scheduling a special meeting or waiting, or the board's thoughts on, or waiting until the committee of the whole meeting in September, or scheduling a special meeting?
Depends on how long you want the meeting to be.
gonna
We
say, I
definitely
feel-
have some other things to do at our committee of the
Yeah.
whole meeting in September, so it might be good either to look at a different date or potentially to look at a special meeting directly before the committee of the whole that only has one agenda item. But it sounds like we might want to wait until you've had an opportunity to go to that.
It's in
or
like
is
3
it-
days.
Okay, all right. So yeah, we can look either way.
Any other thoughts on that?
I think that it seems to me like we have a lot of thoughts running through our head,
Mhm.
like it should be a separate meeting.
I think
Yeah,
so
I
too.
agree.
Like just on this topic, I agree.
I agree. So let's try to get that scheduled, and my goal would be to have that scheduled before our next committee of the whole meeting in September, so sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Could we do a doodle?
No.
Yes, and maybe
When-
even a daytime.
When do we have to announce it to like?
Oh,
how
I'd be all
many-
about
48 hours.
48,
Yeah.
okay.
So, and is there a time frame? Would you like to do it sort of more during the day? Would that be, or an afternoon
Let's
meeting?
do like
or
a
an
6 a.m. Who's with me?
Everyone can get themselves out.
I'm good. I'm good with that.
am not
I
good
would
with
prefer a
that.
daytime meeting for this, but I think a doodle for where there's availability. I know some of us have jobs that take us away too. So,
We'll send it, we'll
okay.
pick some different times.
Okay, so any other thoughts on, before we close up this part of the discussion?
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for participating. I think and thank you, Dr. Lane, for the things your team's already doing. And thank you to those who made public comment. Thanks to all the efforts already going on in the community. And we'll keep moving forward. Great. Okay, with no more discussion on that, we'll move on to our action items. We have 4 action items tonight. The first one is related to the press policy that we discussed before. So I'll ask for discussion in just a minute, but let me ask first, may I have a motion to adopt draft policy 7:285, anaphylaxis prevention, response, and management program as presented by the administration?
So moved. Second.
Okay, before we call for a vote, any discussion? Okay, just because I'm not sure exactly which we should do or should not do, I'm going to call a roll call on this one. So Carrie, kind of roll call. vote.
Sure. Lauren Hirsch,
Yes.
Carrie Steinbach, yes. Tim Penich,
Yes.
Amy Connell Donahue.
Yes.
Andy Duran,
Yes.
Ann Hill,
Yes.
and Mark Berry.
Yes,
Okay, motion has passed. There could be construed money involved in that one, so great. Item B, intergovernmental agreement. This is related to the intergovernmental agreements in our packet, also presented at the last board meeting related to library services. So may I have a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for library services as presented by administration?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a random question. Based on some communication you shared with us, Dr. Lealy, I just opened the resolution. I just want to confirm that this applies to kids who are in all of the unincorporated areas of Lake Bluff and
Yes.
not just Knollwood.
Yes, so we do have Arden Shores North and South. This applies to those students as well as anyone who attends District 65. And just as also further clarification, while this agreement ends at the end of 8th grade, the Lake Bluff Library District has also has a similar agreement with District 115. So all of our students have this ability to access library materials all the way through senior year.
That's a great clarifying question, Tim. Thank you. Does that answer?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Great. So we have a motion, we have a second. So let's do a roll call vote.
Sure. Carrie Steinbach, yes. Tim Penich,
Yes.
Amy Connell Donahue.
Yes.
Andy Duran.
Yes.
Ann Hill,
Yes.
Mark Berry,
yes,
and Lauren Hirsch.
Yes.
All right, the motion has passed. Item C is the personnel report. Please allow me to read this month's personnel report in its entirety. We have 4 non-licensed new hires, and I apologize if I get these names wrong. Dale Mitch,
Mitch.
okay, position of TA at LBES, effective August 18th, replacing Johanna Mossbarger at $19 an hour. Edith Barrientos, the new school secretary at Lake Bluff Elementary School, effective date August 9th, 2022, replacing Andrea Fuentes at $20 an hour. Jillian London, TA at LBES, effective 8/18/2022, replacing Maria Gonzalez at $19 an hour. And Elvin Torres Ortiz, custodian at Lake Bluff Elementary School, effective date September 1st, replacing Ernest Graves at $23 an hour. We have 3 resignations.
4 resignations. Actually, we had to add one today. so sorry about
Okay.
that. Go
4
ahead.
resignations. We have Andrea Fuentes, school secretary at LBES, effective June 8th. She found a full-time position elsewhere. Ernest Graves, a custodian at LBES, effective July 19th, to run his own business. Joan Lynn Lindquist, a TA at LBES, 8/16/22 for medical reasons, and Susie Thomas, a special needs aide at the elementary school building, effective August 16th, 2022, found a position elsewhere. We have no terminations. We have 2 licensed new hires. Allison Romolo, new first grade teacher at the elementary school, effective August 24th, it's tomorrow, replacing Amanda Haddon, an annual salary of $53,327. And we have Ryan Warehane, Learning Behavioral Specialist 1 at the LBES building, effective 8/24/2022, replacing Ann DeGo at $53,327. And just to clarify, Amanda Haddon and Ann DeGo both are staying in the district and have other positions. We have 2 FMLA requests. Sally Bishop, 6th grade math teacher at the middle school, request dates effective 10/31/2022 to March 1st, 2023 for maternity leave. We have Ryan Reagan and Wellness, LBES, effective September 21st, 2022 to 10/03/2022, plus some intermittent time for care of a family member. We have 1 salary adjustment we're voting on the personnel report. Jennifer Denhart, our nurse at LBES, effective August 15th, 2022, at a rate of $39 per hour. So may I have a motion to approve the personnel report as just presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, here can I have a roll call vote?
Tim Penich,
Yes.
Amy Connell Donahue,
Yes.
Andy Duran,
Yes.
Ann Hill,
Yes.
Mark Barry,
Yes.
Lauren Hirsch,
Yes.
and Carrie Steinbach, yes.
Okay, motion is passed. Thank you. Last approval tonight is the consent agenda. This month's consent agenda includes the following: the open session meeting minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting on July 12th, 2022, and the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from August 9th, 2022. It also includes the treasurer's report, the impress report, the bills report, and the P card report. Would any board member like to have anything pulled out of the consent agenda for further discussion? Okay, then may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda for August 23rd, 2022, as presented by administration?
So moved.
Second.
And we'll need a roll call vote,
Sure.
please.
Amy Connell Donahue,
Yes.
Andy Duran.
Yes.
Ann Hill,
Yes.
Mark Barry,
Yes.
Lauren Hirsch.
Yes.
Carrie Steinbach, yes, and Tim Penich.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes as well. Moving on to item 9, FOIA request. The district received 2 FOIA requests this month since our last meeting, details of which are in the packet, both from the same organization and both come through regularly. Okay, moving on to, or any questions or discussion about the FOIA request, by the way? No, okay. Public comment, our second option for public comment. There's nobody extra in the room. I don't think anybody on Zoom or.
No more.
Okay, great. So no more public comment tonight. Thanks to all of those of you that did submit a comment for tonight. So with nothing else on the agenda, we'll move to adjourn the meeting. So may I have a motion to adjourn the August 9th, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting at 8:24 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.